Yo, what's going on? This your boy Easy, most known unknown Easy O. So coming back at y'all again. I was supposed to be doing this much earlier, much earlier in the day, but the day been a day. I'm just gonna say that, man. I thought, matter of fact, hold on, let me put everything on not disturb because I still get messages and everything like that. But today was supposed to be simple enough. Supposed to go to the gym, hit the gym, see moms, get back to the crib, do some stuff, enjoy the rest of the Sunday, and nothing when it's playing. Supposed to record probably my first reaction video in a while, in a long while. Didn't work out. Uh, just a couple of things didn't work out today. Now the crib done flooded and everything like that, and I'm like, man, whatever, man. It's a day, but I'm gonna still do this live stream because I said I would yesterday. I said I would do it today. So I want to talk about two kids. One of them has passed, unfortunately. R.I.P. to her, Jada West, and the other kid is. Let me see if I can find his name again. Give me 1 second. He's a Georgia student. Uh, his name is Laneir Johnson Hunt. I'm gonna just say Mr. Hunt because I don't want to run his name. You know what I'm saying? He was the kids. Those were the two kids that I was going to talk about today. I had asked earlier in the week, is discipline necessary for our kids? I don't have kids personally, but I asked, is discipline necessary for the kids? That was mainly because I feel like kids are kind of getting out of hand with stuff. Uh, Hence the Jada West situation. What's going on, everybody? And then I also think the adults aren't really doing what they supposed to do at the same time. Welcome in, welcome in. I'm gonna just talk. Appreciate you guys for checking me out and stuff like that. But I wanted to talk about. I had a whole backsplash and everything like that, but it just, like I said, the day just been kaput. So uh, I apologize. Mr. Hunt was the one in Georgia from school bus. They got tased on the school bus, and I felt that situation just didn't. I don't know. The adults in that situation should have definitely done better. So that was my thing about that situation. Knowing the kid, the description, what everything he said went on, there was ways to handle that situation where it could have came out much better. And this is just the the attitude that we have nowadays. Now, I will say, kids are hard to deal with nowadays because they're very disrespectful, very disrespectful in a lot of ways, and I think it's just because they feel like they can't be touched in most cases. In a way that I see kids. So I'm a retired, well, not retired, but I used to work in school bus work. I used to do school bus work. I don't do it anymore. But I've been through the stages of kids acting up. You know what I'm saying? On the bus, we having issues on the bus, and there's only so much that you could do for the kids. You know what I'm saying? Uh, for the kids, and you could try to reprimand them and stuff like that. It's not easy. I can tell you that it's not easy to reprimand the kids because they kind of understand that there's only so much you can do. Honestly, most of the time, I don't even believe they think they're gonna get in trouble. So I kind of get I get it for the adults and the way they have to handle situations, but there still are ways that you can handle situations where it shouldn't come to a kid getting tased, and even bully situations like the Jada situation, where it shouldn't come to a kid succumbing to her injuries and passing away and stuff like that. So, in the case of Mr. Hunt, he was on a school bus in Georgia. I don't have the exact school. Like I said, I'm kind of doing this on the fly now. I supposed to have it all loaded up, but it just didn't work out. So he's on a school bus in Georgia, about to head home. Apparently, him and the bus driver gets into it. Now, I'm assuming he might have been on this bus before because they had an argument kind of discussing whether he should be on the bus or not. So he's telling the bus driver that he's supposed to be on the bus. Bus driver's not having it. Uh, the bus driver essentially says, "You're not riding home with me," and administration gets involved. Now, everybody on the bus, the kids on the bus, are saying this is his route. This is the way he's supposed to be going home. This is the bus he's supposed to be riding. The school bus. And I'm not sure if the administration had said so, but the bus driver felt that it wasn't his bus. And the cops were called. Cops was there, came there to take him off the bus. I felt like they didn't handle the situation right. I felt like the administration didn't have the situation right. I felt like maybe the bus driver might have had a vendetta against the kid. I don't know. I'm not for sure. But I can say when kids are in that type of situation, you either have one or two problems or one of a few problems. So you can't have a repeat offender on a bus. Sometimes kids can get on a bus, and you're not technically really allowed to kick them off. You can't inform administration that, hey, this kid is on my bus. He's not supposed to be on my bus, and he needs to be taken off, which is, I'm assuming, how the situation started. So I think that part came into action. It came into play. Now, there's only a few reasons that I can think of where this bus driver would want this child off the bus. Now, he could have been making a ruckus. The prior situation that they had, who knows? I'm not sure. But there could have just been a chance that maybe the bus driver just didn't want to deal with the child, seen the child on the bus before, and the child wasn't supposed to be on the route. Sometimes routes take a while to get updated, so he might have not actually been on the route. But there is ways to find out whether the child is on the route or not. So, if I'm a policeman, and this is just me, my opinion, you know what I'm saying, and I get called to a scene like this, I'm looking for maybe old school rules. You know what I'm saying? Find a solution. I don't even think a taser should have been deployed whatsoever in this situation. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So, cops show up. All right, cops show up. I guess the cops were informed of the situation by either administration or the bus driver. One of the two, maybe both. Cops tell everybody to get off the bus, right? And the student claims, Mr. Hunt claims that nobody checked IDs or anything or verified anything. And then after a little bit, they told everybody, that's what he said, everybody to get back on the bus. So him being part of everybody, all the students, he gets back on the bus. And now the cop comes on the bus, tells him to get off the bus, or they're gonna take him off. Now, I guess he might have refused, or cop might have felt like he refused, so he tased him. Tased the kid, and then told him to get off the bus again. And as he was trying to get off the bus again, apparently he was gonna try to tase him a second time. And it's just like he said that the officer was coming after him, kind of like almost blood in his eyes, like wanting to really get the kid and stuff like that. And my thought is, where is your adulthood in this situation as a cop. I'm not saying you're not supposed to handle your business. I understand that side of things. But what happened to the professionalism, right? So if I'm a cop and I got to come handle a situation like this, it's not really a bad situation. Really, you just got to get the sense of what's going on and what can you do to help, protect, and serve. That's what I remember that they said that they were supposed to do. So if I'm coming to a scene like this, which is not a major scene and not a major crime or anything like that, it's just a kid that kind of refusing to get off the route that he claims he's supposed to be on. So if I'm an adult, just an adult, I don't even need to be an officer of the law or anything like that. If I'm an adult and I know I'm put in this situation as I'm an officer and I come into the situation, my first thing is to get the information from bus driver, get the information from administration, and then figure out a way we can get this problem solved. So, the way I probably would have handled it is after I learn of the situation, oh, there's a kid on a bus refusing to get off the bus. This is not his route. How do we know this is not his route? That's my first question. How do we know this is not his route? Because I probably would have found out this is the second time this happened. So, who can tell me if this is not his route? And why does he feel like this is his route? Administration is then supposed to say, oh, well, here's the paperwork saying that this is not his route or that this is his route. Did anybody in administration find out if this is this child's route? Is he not supposed to be on here or is he supposed to be on here? That's the first thing that I can think of top of my head. Hey, let's make sure this child is supposed to be on this route. I'm just thinking forward. You know what I'm saying? Because it really ain't this big of a deal. We just got to figure out, is he supposed to be on a route? He's not supposed to be on a route. So after we get it straight with administration, we find out whether he's supposed to be on a route or not. Let's say he is supposed to be on a route. Then, hey, we tell the bus driver, hey, the kid is supposed to be on a route. Oh, I don't see him on the route. Okay. So bus driver's problem. How long does it take a route to get updated? Oh, well, maybe we have it tomorrow because we don't have it today. All right. Either way it go, situation, that's the situation. Hey, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hop on the bus. Hey, so found out that you probably are supposed to be on this route, but it's not showing that you're supposed to be on this route. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you, curbside service. I'm gonna drive you home today, and then tomorrow, when everything is updated and you're supposed to be back on your route, you will have no problem. You know what I'm saying? And I'll even come up to the school and check. If I'm the officer, I'll even come up to the school and check and make sure everything is right. So today, you're going to ride home with me. We'll make sure you get home safe. And the bus is going to go about their business. Unfortunately, you got to miss today. Explain it to the child. I'm pretty sure it probably would have worked out that way. Probably would have worked out fine. And let's say he's not on the route. Same scenario. It's just, hey, apparently you are not on the route. I'm not sure how it works, but you might have to get re-registered, or we're gonna have to figure something out, or your parents might have to figure something out. Never in my mind is it coming to, oh yeah, let's tase the young man. Never in my thoughts. Even if they being mean or annoying or whatever have you, because kids can do that. Kids can push your buttons, and we know that. We know that. But walking into a situation like such as this, there's no reason for me to draw weapons. You know what I'm saying? If you go draw a weapon, draw the weapon up here. Use your brain. Use your brain. That's all I can tell you. Use your brain. It makes no sense for you to hop on a bus and try to take a kid off bus by force. You know what I'm saying? And No, I don't. I haven't seen any other footage other than what he said. So I don't know everything. I'm just giving scenarios. I feel like there should have never been a situation where the kid got tased. That's just me. That's just me being an adult. It's not a cop thing or anything like that. It's just me being an adult. And I understand cops got to do their job. I understand cops got to are under a lot of pressure. But at the end of the day, you are an adult, and you're an adult and an authority figure. So you really should use sound mind rather than force. Because often when you meet kids with force, especially if they don't know you or mess with you, they're going to meet you back with force. And I just don't think the guy handled that right. I don't think he handled it in a way respectable at all. And that's just my take on what he did. There were so many other ways he could have solved the problem. There's so many other ways that all the cops could have solved the problem. You know what I'm saying? And the one that I stated is the main way that I feel like he could have handled that problem. I felt like as a community, especially as a black community, it's tough. I will say it's tough because our boys are running wild. They do. They run wild. And like I said, they can be very disrespectful. Nowadays, not too many. I ain't gonna say not too many. I apologize. I always do that a lot. I always generalize all our kids. And majority of the kids I still believe do have a good relationship with parents, relationship with authority figures and stuff like that. And I do feel like they respect, their elders. But I have ran into cases where it's not so. As I said, I used to be a bus driver. And who I ran into the most problems with? Kids that look like me. Boys that look like me. For some odd reason, whenever I'm with our boys, they tend to act up more. I don't know why. I don't know why it is. You know what I'm saying? It's just like they got to show their dominance and stuff like that. And you got to be able to kind of show your dominance, but also think soundly. You know what I'm saying? Not get into a beef with these kids and stuff like that. Not cause problems with these kids. Because at the end of the day, some of them just want they want the fame. Some of them want the fame. Some of them have no respect for their elders. I ain't gonna hold you. Or they do, but you gotta fight for that respect. And it's not every day that you gonna see that kid. So if you gotta fight with them for 30 minutes, you gotta fight with them for 30 minutes, but you still gotta use your brain more than anything. More than anything, I already know when I get on a bus filled with young black men that it's gonna be very hard, very, very hard to really be sound mind because you don't know what can go wrong. You always hope nothing goes wrong, but you never can really tell if they don't. If they're gonna respect you or if they're not gonna respect you. And I've ran into a few that they have an issue with authority. They have an issue with authority. They know what they're supposed to do, but they don't do it. They don't want to do it. You know, I growing up, I never gave that type of problem. I just knew better. You know what I'm saying? That was also part of the reason why I asked what I asked on my short, as far as do our kids need discipline in their lives? Because it's just like when we used to ride the bus, we just knew that person up front, whether it's an aide or the bus driver, you don't disrespect them. If they ask you to do something, you do it. In most cases, a lot of these kids can't even sit down on the bus. You know what I'm saying? You ask them to sit down on the bus, they really don't. You know what I'm saying? You got to kind of force it. It's got to be something that's put into their mind every day, even though they hear from the teachers, from the principals, from everybody saying, hey, you got to sit down and stay safe. It doesn't mean they're going to do it. It doesn't mean they're going to do it. They need repetition. They need a lot of repetition for stuff. Because if you don't give them repetition for some odd reason, they forget. they forget what they supposed to do. I don't get it, but it's an uphill battle for the grown-ups. They got to find a way to actually kind of meet the kids at their level. It's very difficult, but it ain't. I'm not saying it can't be done, because I have done it before. I fought my way to kind of earning that understanding with them. You know what I'm saying? Even if I don't, you're not gonna always get the win, but at least you can come to a consensus. And that bus ride home could have been a consensus. You know what I'm saying? Even from the bus driver themselves. They could have asked the administration, hey, what's going on? How can we make this work? Because I can't have this kid on here if he's not supposed to be on the route. Because you can't get in trouble for that type of stuff. You can't get in trouble for that type of stuff as a bus driver. You know what I'm saying? If something happens to that child, they in your care. So, you know what I'm saying? You might not want to take that risk. And I understand and a bus driver not wanting to take that risk. But it still has to be an adult with a sound mind and understanding. And they gotta, everybody's gotta be on one accord for the children. You know what I'm saying? Whether they young, old, or older, you know what I'm saying? Whether they graduating from high school or graduating from middle school or whatever have you, graduating from kindergarten, you gotta be of sound mind and meet them at their level. You gotta understand that part. And I felt like that did not happen in Mr. Hunt's case. And it was sad, but I'm assuming he's gonna get justice. The videos have been surfacing out there, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna figure something out. But I hope that young man doesn't have to go through anything like that again. And I hope, as a community, like I said, we do better. I hope the administration, teachers, bus driver, cops, everybody just, you know, receives that understanding of we can handle this situation differently next time. And I just wanted to touch on that topic. And then there's the Jada topic, which is another sad case involving uh, a bus drop off and stuff like that. And, essentially, I don't really think you can put too much onus on the bus driver. Well, not all onus on the bus driver, because the situation, the bus driver could have been a sub, or the bus driver could have been, they could have been a regular route, but also the kids that got into it, that could have been a regular stop. You don't know, you know what I'm saying? And I will say, I know sub drivers don't really do a lot of, they subs. They don't know. They don't know what's going on. So you can't always guarantee that drivers are gonna, do intervene. And so the situation with Jada, once the kids are off the bus, the kids are off the bus. There's not much that a bus driver can do. So I know people were saying that the bus driver should have did more to stop the kids and make sure stuff didn't happen and stuff like that. As far as I know, most of the issues happened outside of the bus. So if there was arguments on the bus, yes, you can quiet it on the bus. But once the kids leave the bus, they left the bus. And I know people said that, well, they shouldn't let the kids out of the bus and stuff like that. You can't do that. You can't stop a kid from getting off. Now, you can say, this is not your stop. You can't go. Or you can tell them, like, essentially you can tell them, but you can't stop them. If they leave, they leave. You can't grab them. Hey, you're not going nowhere. You can't do that. And you definitely can't, if there's an altercation happening off the bus, you can't just hop off the bus and say, hey, break it up. You can't do that either. Or your job is gone. Your job is gone. Even if you're trying to save somebody, life. You know what I'm saying? Your job is gone. And hey, I can understand you want to be able to keep your job. So letting the kids off, if that's they stop, that's they stop. And even if they're not they stop, sometimes kids will hop off at a different stop. And like I said, you can't always stop them. You can't close the door. If they get caught in the door, right, you close the door, they get caught in the door, what happens? Now you're in trouble. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, you can't touch kids. You can't touch kids. So letting everybody off. You now on the bus, if they're arguing and stuff like that, you can set measures to make sure that the kids, stop arguing. Nobody gets hurt on a bus and stuff. The bus is your domain, so you can say something to the kids. You can try to, minimize bullying and stuff like that. You can move seats and everything like that. You can, you know, stop things from happening on the bus. But once the kids leave the bus, that's it. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, Jada left the bus with the kids that didn't like her. I don't know what happened. I'm not a fan of bullying. I don't like bullying. When I was driving the bus, I always try to check bullying, especially when the kids let me know, hey, this is happening, this is what's going on. I always try to accommodate. I don't like bullying. You know what I'm saying? I used to be bullied. It was not fun. So I do not like it. You know what I'm saying? And you never know what could happen. But you should always intervene before it gets too far. Too far. But only on the bus. I'm not really able to intervene after I've dropped them off. There's nothing I can do about that. So I just wanted to say that part as far as the bus driver, because I felt like people was really putting the onus on the bus driver, and we just don't know what could have been done more from the bus driver. Because if that's they stop and they get into it, that's they stop and they get into it. There's not really much, like I said, we could do about that part. But people, like I said, I think this is also a school bus, community thing. We got to know things like this are happening, and we got to do something about it early. You know what I'm saying? Maybe she don't get into the issue, and she might still be here today if she never got into the issue. And I hate that happened to that young lady, because she didn't do anything wrong. You know what I'm saying? She didn't do anything wrong, and just to know that she got into an issue with these kids where they beat her very badly, and she wound up in the hospital, and wind up succumbing to her injuries. It's sad. It's definitely sad. And it's like, I've seen so many things of people talking about parents being responsible, and it does come down to that too. But we still need that sense of community. We need that sense of community back. We need that sense of community, unity, neighborhood, and we have to hold the parents as well as the kids accountable. We got to start doing that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a parent, but I don't like bullying. You know what I'm saying? So I try to stop it in its tracks when I used to ride a bus. And as well, if I see it out in the streets, I try to say something. You know what I'm saying? I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that I'm Superman or anything like that. But when I see it out in the streets and I see bullying and stuff like that, I try to squash the situation, because in most cases, stuff is never really that big. Bullying, for the most part, is just people wanting to just have power over people, have their way with people and stuff like that. And sometimes it's just, they've been picked on, so they pick on people. But nonetheless, I feel like what happened with Jada is mainly a thing for parents in neighbors or in the neighborhood, because parents, they gotta be more responsible with the kids. You gotta be watching your kids more. You gotta take more time out for them and stuff like that, because they get lonely. They get lonely and they start acting out, and you might not notice it. And know your kid is not an angel. Know your kid is not an angel. because parents be walking around this month believing that all their kids is angels nowadays. Some of your kids is the worst. Some of your kids is the worst. They're not all angels, and that's okay. But you need to know that your kid's not always gonna be an angel. You know what I'm saying? Parents, when they hear about their kids now, I back in the day with my parents, I knew my parents most likely wasn't gonna believe anything that happened with me. What a teacher said something about me, I knew they was most likely gonna believe the teacher, which is understandable because I wasn't always the best kid. You know what I'm saying? I rarely got in trouble, but when I did get in trouble, sometimes I understood why, and I understood why my parents believed the teachers. Nowadays, it's just like parents and kids is so sensitive. Like you can't tell them nothing. You can't tell them nothing. I've done tutoring, I've done recess coaching, and I've done school bus work and stuff like that. I've been around these kids, and like I said, sometimes they're very disrespectful, and I've been through it to where I've told kids, "Hey, you can't say stuff like this, like making threatening gestures and motions and talking to people in a threatening manner." I tell them like, you can't talk like this. You shouldn't be talking like that. And what if I told your parents, you were talking to people in this manner? And they'll tell me flat out, they don't care. They're not gonna do anything to me. And I be thinking about it like, man, whatever. They lying. No, I'm gonna talk to these parents. And then I see the parents, and they right. Kids ain't gonna. Nothing's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna happen. Kid was right. So when a kid has no boundaries, you know what I'm saying, and they know no harm, no issue is gonna come to them, no punishment or nothing like that. Where's my leeway to do good? Where is my leeway to be a good person? You know what I'm saying? So sometimes kids, they create their own problems, they create their own issues, and a lot of the times they don't care. They act out because maybe they're not getting enough attention and stuff like that, and they take it out on other kids. Sometimes they take it out on other grown-ups. Just like the situation where the parents walking home with her kids and ended up they all three of them ended up getting jumped by a couple of kids and beat up. And it's just like, what's going on in the community where parents don't no longer have control over the kids, or at least authority over their kids? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I mean, I know sometimes people discipline their kids, but discipline ain't always enough. You know what I'm saying? But as far as what I mean is, discipline ain't enough as far as you know whoopings. I ain't gonna even hold you. Like whoopings don't do much. You gotta be able to actually disciplining kids in a way where they're understanding, hey, this is an issue and you need to correct it. You need to correct it because that's the best outcome. Kids don't really understand what they do if they don't believe it's wrong, and they don't believe it's wrong. And that's not a good thing. You know what I'm saying? You got to get your kids to understand, like, what you're doing is wrong. So, I think when those kids met with Jada, they thought what they was doing was right, but it was wrong. And I heard people say that the parents were even kind of offended and stuff like that. And it's like, we gotta be older. We gotta be grown. You gotta reprimand your kids. You know what I'm saying? We can't let them just be out here doing whatever they feel. It's not fair to the community. And to be honest, nobody should have to deal with your kids. You know what I'm saying? In that manner. But I do believe if you bring back that sense of community and unity, all that stuff, maybe things might change. But for right now, sometimes the kids is gonna be bad, but and you might not want to intervene, but I think as an adult, we gotta intervene. We gotta start really fostering these kids, taking them in and talking to them and doing our best to make sure stuff like what Jada went through doesn't happen again, because it will. It can happen again. It can happen again. And I wouldn't want nothing like that to happen again. You know what I'm saying? To know that this girl's life ended so shortly, you know what I'm saying? To know that she had a lot of life to live, and now she can't do that no more. It's upsetting. It's sad, and it's getting difficult to keep hearing these type of things go on. And when we have adults out here that could stop these things from happening, you know what I'm saying? When these kids feel pressured, they don't really know where to turn nowadays. It's like there's no friends, there's no friendship, there's nothing that protects them. You know what I'm saying? When they get peer pressured, they just keep going. You know, normally you have somebody to pull you off to the side and say, yo, chill, man, you tripping. You know what I'm saying? As a friend, when you was young and stuff like that, it's not really that anymore. Now everybody got the phones out. You know, it doesn't really make good that I got the phone out. But everybody's recording something. Nobody thinks anything is serious anymore until it is serious. And it's just like we losing time with the kids. You know what I'm saying? We got to start understanding the kids. We got to start spending more time with the kids. We got to start knowing the kids. You know what I'm saying? Know what's going on in their life. Know what's going wrong with them and stuff like that. Talk to them. Talk to them. At the end of the day, your kids want to be loved. I don't care what no kids say. Kids want to be loved. And actually, they be wanting the discipline too. I ain't going to hold you. Like, sometimes when I was talking to kids, when I was a bus driver, sometimes I would have to discipline them. I would have to sit them down. I would have to write them up and stuff like that. And I would have to repeat myself a lot of the time. But they eventually learn to respect it. You know what I'm saying? I might have been one of the only people that would discipline them. And I think that's just something that they thought they wasn't supposed to get, because they don't get it a lot. So I guess they just felt like if they acted out more, then I'm just supposed to allow it. And it's like, I can't do that. I can't be that person. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna irk me. It's gonna irk in my soul, and I'm gonna have to say something to you. And of course, that's what I did, and I just I accepted the repercussions of it. But in most cases, some of the kids appreciate it. They even told me, like, you were cool. You were pretty cool and stuff like that. But we clashed. And so it would surprise me when they would tell me, like, yo, no, you wasn't a bad driver. We appreciate you and stuff like that. It surprised me because we always used to go at it. But I understood as, hey, you actually care. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what people are looking for. I think that's what kids especially are looking for. They're looking for somebody to care. So I'm just saying this because I don't want no more situations like what happened to Mr. Hunt to happen. I don't want no more situations like what happened with Jada to happen. Like, I don't want that anymore. You know what I'm saying? And I know majority of our community don't want that anymore. And I hope we can do better. I'm praying we can do better. I want to see us do better. I want to see us thrive. I want to see us win. And I don't want to have stories like what happened to either of these kids to be out there. You know what I'm saying? Well, we as adults can stop those situations from happening. We as adults can do more to make sure these kids live long, prosperous lives and thrive. That's what we want. That's what we want to see in the community. And so, my thoughts and prayers and feelings go out to the family of Jada and Mr. Hunt. I really do hope everything gets better for you. I just want us all to be better. I want us all to thrive. I want us all to love, understand each other, and be together, come together as a people, man. I promise you, it'll be a lot easier and better days if we can do that. And that was just my take on stuff. I actually had a lot more, but like I said, I couldn't get my reactions going and stuff like that. So I just wanted to drop this live because I said I would. But I'm going to check y'all later. Appreciate everybody for checking me out. This your boy Easy. Most don't know none Easy. Oh, so I'll holla at y'all.